About 3 years ago, I did a tour of my home network, and it turned out to be way more popular than I had imagined. Well, a lot has changed since then, and I'm going to give you an updated tour and show you what it looks like today. Stick around to the end of this video, and I'll answer a ton of the questions I get about all of this. In the 2017 video, we started outside where Frontier Communications installed their optical network terminal. Many of you mistook this for my own router. An ONT is owned by the ISP and is responsible for converting the fiber connection over to a gigabit Ethernet, POTS lines, and cable TV service. I don't have any access to this device. Well, since that video, Frontier has made a lot of changes. First, they moved the ONT inside to my garage into a different housing. This was at my request because I felt like the old install was a hack job. Second, my speed has been increased to gigabit, albeit still about 30% higher than AT&T is charging right down the street for the same service. As mentioned in the 2017 tour, we had our builder put in a dedicated AV closet off the theater room. This room has changed a lot too. I now run my entire network on Ubiquiti UniFi gear, and I love it. My core switch is a UniFi US XG16. This is where all of my server gear plugs in, or anything that needs 10 gigabit. My access switch is a UniFi USW Pro 48 Gen 2. This is where everything else in the house plugs in, including PoE cameras, desktop PCs, TVs, etc. Now, anywhere in the house that I need more ports than I have wall jacks is a UniFi US 60W 8-port managed switch. These are awesome because not only do they support PoE, but they also are part of the SDN, allowing me to pass security policy, VLANs, etc., while remote monitoring them via SNMP. In the case of my living room, this means I can have my security camera on the secure network and my TV on the regular network. For my firewall, I have replaced the old one with a Supermicro 5018D-FN8T. This server is designed to be used as a router or firewall appliance and has 12 gigabit ports, 2 SFP Plus ports for 10 gig, and an IPMI management port. It's uplinked to the core switch with a 10 gig fiber SFP Plus. It's running a Xeon D 1518 and 32 gigabytes of RAM. This allows me to run lots of OpenVPN sessions, including a VPN to my brother's house, the 8-bit guy, PF blocker, IPS, and IDS for security, and more. In my opinion, this is the absolute best box you can buy to run a large pfSense firewall on. Now let's move on to my servers and storage. In the 2017 video, I was running 2 homebrew servers with Intel Core i7 7700K CPUs and 32 gigabytes of RAM. I also had a Synology RS2416 Plus for storage. Today, things here have changed quite a bit as well. I am now running 2 Supermicro 5019P-M 1U servers. Both have Xeon 4114 scalable CPUs with 96 gigabytes of RAM. These are running VMware ESXi and get their storage from a Synology RS3618XS running a Xeon D 1521 and 32 gigs of RAM. These are all connected to the core switch with redundant 10 gigabit links. Let's break this down a bit. First, we have 2 Supermicro 5019P-M servers running a VMware cluster with HA and DRS enabled. This allows virtual machines to move between these two servers to balance the load or to recover automatically from a hardware failure. Both of these boxes are identical configurations. I named them TARDIS 1 and TARDIS 2 because they are bigger on the inside. Next, I have a Synology RS3418XS NAS with 88 terabytes of raw capacity, and then an RS2416 Plus NAS with 24 terabytes of raw capacity. The 2416 has been replaced under warranty due to the Intel Atom bug. Okay, so what runs on all this hardware? On the TARDIS vSphere cluster, I run Plex for serving video to all of my devices, HomeSeer for home automation, vCenter Server for managing the virtual machines, MySQL for backend databases for all kinds of things, a couple of Windows domain controllers, Ubuntu servers running all kinds of things such as time servers, even have a full copy of Wikipedia in case of the zombie apocalypse. And I use Observium to monitor all of my hardware and servers. On NAS 1, I have a 42 terabyte volume that stores all of my Plex video, as well as the file shares for my video editing Mac. and a 24TB volume for VMware vSphere, where all of my virtual machines live. This volume is fronted by two Samsung Evo 860 SSDs to add some performance. On NAS 2, I have a 9TB volume for Surveillance Station. This is the NVR for all of my cameras. And another 9TB volume for general file storage and a sync share for Dropbox. Okay, so back to the home network for a minute. I still use this HD Home Run Extend to distribute an analog signal to all of my TVs and devices over Ethernet. Plex integrates with this natively and allows for me to watch live TV anywhere in the house or around the world for that matter. I also still use the HomeSeer ZNet for connecting my Z-Wave devices to the HomeSeer virtual machine. For those wondering, this is indeed nothing more than a Raspberry Pi with a Z-Wave hat and some proprietary HomeSeer software. One major change I have made is that I've moved my entire house over to Ubiquiti UniFi wireless access points. I personally think these are the absolute best access points you can buy for a home. I couldn't be happier. I also run a guest network on these APs through pfSense that allow any of my visiting friends or family to get internet access without having access to my home network, albeit throttled to 100 megabit. In the 2017 video, I also mentioned that I had a dedicated exhaust fan in the server room running 24/7 to remove heat. This is still in place, however, I did upgrade the fan to a much larger CFM version just a few months back. This dropped the temperature in the room by almost 20 degrees. Now let's move over to my office. I no longer use my Mac as a primary workstation. I just got fed up with Apple and went back to Windows. I'm running a Core i9 with 64GB of RAM and a 1080 Ti video card. It's plenty for any games that I play. I also have a second monitor that I use to see my surveillance cameras outside and to check on system performance in Observium. In the office, I also have a 16-inch MacBook Pro set up for video editing. I mainly keep the Mac around because I just can't bring myself to switch off of Final Cut Pro. I just like it so much better than anything on Windows. Over here, I have my electronic station where I work on the Raspberry Pi and Arduino projects. You've likely seen this in many of my videos. And behind it is my computer museum where I have many old computers on display, mostly ones I used as a kid growing up. So let's talk about the things around my house that are connected to the rest of my home network. All around the house you will find cameras for security. I originally put in D-Link, but after about 6 months, literally every one of them died and got tossed in the garbage. Since then, I have replaced every single camera with Axis. They've been rock solid and reliable. The alarm system is on a secure VLAN and has digital touchpads throughout the house. I have digital keypads on the doors that connect to HomeSeer and the alarm system, although these actually connect to Z-Wave and are then bridged over to the security network. Every TV in the house has an Apple TV for streaming from Plex, Netflix, etc. Even my pool is connected to the network, although it's on a separate VLAN to keep the pool company out of my home network. Our Tesla Model X loves to chew up some bandwidth every evening as it uploads telemetry to Tesla's neural network. I still use the Logitech Harmony hubs for automating my media gear. It seems to work fine and integrates well with HomeSeer. I also still use Alexa in many places throughout the house as a primary voice control for home automation. And of course, R2-D2 loves to get on the home network too. Okay, so I'm going to address the most common questions that I got from the 2017 video. Hopefully they'll apply to this video as well. So the first one is, why is your cable management so bad? And I think a lot of people are confusing the lab portion of my network with the permanently installed portion of my home network. And I think if you look back through the video, you'll see that anywhere that I installed something permanently, cable management looks really well, but I'm not going to spend hours and hours dressing in cables for something that I'm likely to change in just a couple of weeks. And so I think if you look back through the video, you'll see the difference. Okay, so the next most common question is why the plywood and red walls in your server closet? And first of all, let me address the red walls. And so I think many of you must have missed the fact that this is a closet off of our theater room. And the theater room is painted red so that it looks like a theater room. And when the builder sprayed that closet, he just continued to spray the same paint. I'm not sure why that's a big deal to some people, but that's why the walls are red. As far as plywood, plywood is very commonly used in server closets and network closets. And it's because when you mount something on the wall, you generally have to look for a stud when you're mounting something to sheetrock, which is what we have here in the States. And so if you mount a piece of 3/4 inch or 1 inch plywood on the wall first, then you can mount things anywhere you want and you don't have to worry about finding a stud. So that's the reason for plywood. Okay, next up, I got a lot of people complaining that you mounted your router on the outside of the house and anyone can hack you. I think you're confusing an ONT or optical network terminal with a router or firewall. An ONT is something that is provided by the telco or the ISP. It's usually used in fiber to the home installs, which is what we have here. So in this case, the telco installs this ONT on the side of your house in most cases, although they've recently moved it to the garage and our install, but that's because I asked them to do it for a completely different reason. I wanted to be able to use a UPS and some other things on the box. With that said, I don't have any access to that appliance. It's completely owned and operated by the telco, and that is how they all work. The purpose of the ONT is to convert the fiber connection from the ISP or from the phone company over to Cat5 for Ethernet, I think it's RG6 for coax for cable TV, and over to standard POTS lines for TV, for phone service. And so that is all their device, and I don't have any control over it, and that's why it was mounted on the outside of the house. It is not my firewall or my router. Okay, so next up, Alexa is just a spy device in your house, and they're listening to everything that you say. It's funny to me that people are so worried about my Alexa listening to everything I say, yet they don't seem to care much about the cell phone they carry around in their pocket, which is connected to the internet no matter where they go. I think you guys have a problem, or you're a little worried about stuff for no reason, maybe? Not sure about that. Next up is the Supermicro servers have Chinese spyware built into the motherboard. Okay, this has been debunked like 1,000 times. The guy who originally reported that was short selling Supermicro stock, and he was looking to drive the stock price down because he was losing his shorts. That guy is now in prison. There is no firmware or motherboard chipset that is spying on you. Okay, next up, I see this constantly. Well, if you really cared about security, need I say more? Another question I commonly get is, why in the world are you using a Mac when you have that awesome gaming rig? You can do all your video editing on that. Well, I have to tell you, and you can disagree with me if you like, but Final Cut Pro is so much better than any offering on the PC. I've tried them all, and most recently I tried Premiere Pro on the PC. I have an Adobe Creative Cloud license or membership, whatever you want to call it, and I couldn't stand it. I just absolutely hated it. And the way the Final Cut Pro works on the Mac is just so much better. I'm not going to spend hours talking about it, but that's why I use a Mac still, because you just can't beat that piece of software. Well, I hope you enjoyed this home network tour update for 2020. Let me know if you have any questions or any other things you'd like to see in the next updated tour, which will probably be in a couple of years. Thanks for watching.